How's it going, fam? Welcome back to Erica's EDC, and today we're going to do a really fun video. I want it to be a discussion down in the comments. It's going to be a two-part video, but like all in one shot here. I want to talk about my 3 favorite EDC steels, and I want to talk about some designs that I had a part in, and I want to talk about what inspired them and just kind of, I don't know, part of that will be talking about some stuff I've never really talked about before. But if you don't want to hear the whole design thing, we'll talk about the steels first because I think that's what the majority of you want to hear. So sit back, grab a mom, grab a beer, grab a snack. Obviously, K390 is one of them. So I have 3 steels here. I felt it would be easiest to just do 3. K390 is the first one, and I've been saying this for a very, very long time, and it just hasn't changed. K390 is one of my favorite EDC steels. It is also becoming one of my favorite all-around steels for hunting knives and outdoors knives and all of the things, but K390 truly is very unique. It has good toughness, great wear resistance and edge retention, and the corrosion resistance is not the worst, but it's not necessarily the best either. But K390 is awesome. Of course, the camera doesn't want to focus. Sorry, guys. It just truly kind of hits all of the sweet spots for me for EDC. In my EDC knives, I'm primarily looking for edge retention. And I want my edge retention to be, I want it to have longevity. I want it to go as long as possible without human intervention sharpening. I think that is important. I don't feel that a lot of people are generally like batoning with their EDC knives or prying with their EDC knives, unless you're in like a blue collar field maybe and you like sharpened pry bars. But I'm just talking about like normal EDC cutting knives. K390 is absolutely amazing. It really is. It's very easy to sharpen. Like I said, it will take a patina, but I don't feel that it takes one as fast as some of like the simple carbon steels and such. It just really is a pretty balanced steel, and it's incredibly impressive in composition. It has a very fine microstructure. It just will cut for ages, easy to strap back, very comparable to 10V. It was, an iteration of 10V. 10V is made by CPM, or was, I should say, Crucible, but Bowler does the K390. They just do a really impressive job, in my opinion, and it's a steel that I really, really enjoy. If you're looking for great edge retention, K390 is where it's at. My second pick is 15V. This is definitely a more recent acquisition. This is one that I tested a couple months ago. This was my first go around with 15V. I had very split forms of information coming to me about 15V. I feel like half of the people I talked to said it was overhyped, it's not easy to sharpen, all of the things, and then the other half was like, it's absolutely incredible. I think that will happen with any steel. You're going to have a split of people hating it or loving it. It is what it is. Me personally, through my testing, I ended up loving it. I found it very easy to sharpen for me. I filmed the sharpening. I filmed a lot of wacky tasks with this knife, some hunting tasks, or I guess game processing tasks, I should say. Carried it for a month, did the review and everything. I really ended up loving this. 15V has loads of vanadium, high carbide content. It just holds an edge for a very, very, very long time, again, without sharpening. And it is not the best with corrosion resistance, but I didn't have it rust or pit or anything during my testing, and I did leave blood and juices on it, and it just ended up taking a patina, which, the camera's been doing really well lately, and now it's just not. I don't know what happened. Oh well. Just an all-around wonderful steel. I'm really, really happy about it. I want to definitely continue using 15V. It doesn't have the best toughness on paper, but I never had an issue with it at all. And I did, like I said, some game processing on camera, hitting some bone and everything, and nothing happened. So it seems to have great edge stability for me. I really, really enjoy 15V. It definitely impressed me and surprised me as a knife steel nerd. The last one I will probably get some flack for, but it is what it is. Magnacut. It's a hype steel. Oh my gosh. It's just balanced. I don't know what to say. Magnacut really does, suit all of my tasks. Magnacut, in my opinion, is more balanced than 15V and K390. We do have that stainless property with Magnacut. It is just very balanced. It has good edge retention, it has good toughness. It's very, very stainless. I feel when you bring it up to a higher hardness, that edge retention improves. You are still not really losing any toughness or stainlessness. And I think it's balanced and I really like it. Incredibly easy to sharpen. That is another thing. Magnacut is so easy to strop back, and when you're sharpening it, deburring it is very, very easy. It doesn't give you trouble. I just find it to be very balanced. I think it's great for all types of knives, and I know people think it's a hype still and whatever, and I did at first as well, but years later into the present days, it just really works for me. I find it to be a very good, very balanced, very easy steel to work with. It's not finicky. You can kind of touch it up however. So those are my 3 top recommended steels for just general EDC use. And again, we're not talking about like necessarily blue collar, or if you're in Florida, guys, or if you're somewhere humid or by salt water where your stuff corrodes, obviously don't really opt for these two. The Magnacut would probably suit you best, but I'm just saying if you're just in like a normal situation, these are my 3 favorite steels to use, to work with. They bring me almost as much pleasure as your mom. Now, we'll go on to the second part of the video here. I'm not sure how many people will be interested in this, but it's something I've never really talked about before. I want to go over some of the designs that I've done that I find most useful, and I also kind of want to talk about the inspiration behind them and just kind of how this all came about. I have well over a dozen designs out in the world now, out in the wild. They are not all featured here, but I picked some of the fan favorites, I guess we will call them, and I just want to talk about them. I know people get annoyed with YouTubers becoming knife designers, and I so get it. I'm sure if I were not in the position I am in now, I probably would be annoyed too, because it just seems sometimes like everyone that becomes a knife reviewer on YouTube ends up being a knife designer, and all of the designs are done in China and then sold here, and they all kind of look similar. They're all fidgety. They're all they have all of the fidget factors and all of the things, and they all kind of look the same. That's what I have heard, okay? I don't keep track of any of that really, but that's what I've heard. So I can understand that YouTubers becoming knife designers can be very annoying, I guess, to some people, if you let it bother you. I am not trying to necessarily like defend my case here. I just want to maybe speak on how my designs are a little bit different. The first and most important thing is that none of mine are made anywhere but the United States. And that is no shade toward anybody. Some of my best friends have knives made over in China. Look at Jared, Neve's Knives. He has his models made in China and sold here. And Jared is a very good friend of mine. I have nothing against that. But for me personally, I have all of mine made here with domestic and imported materials, okay? So some of mine have been done in like Nitro V, for example. Guys, New Jersey Steel Baron, let's say, distributes the Nitro V and whatever, but it's made overseas, okay? So if anyone like sells Nitro V knives and they claim that they're 100% made here, they're not, right? Because Nitro V isn't made here. That's Buderis. So all of my knife designs are handcrafted here by small custom makers, but some of the steel that we use, like the Nitro V or the K390, comes from overseas. Obviously, I figure most people know that, but some people actually don't. So we use all different types of steel. They're all made here. I purposely kind of work with smaller custom makers because that is my passion. And the other thing I want to say is that I don't do any folders. So there's no like fidgety stuff like that. They're all fixed blades because those are what work best for me. That's not to say I won't do a folder. Spyderco, if you're watching, I have a megamind idea in my brain of combining a number of my favorite knives and making it into one. And it's in my brain. So if you're ever watching this, maybe 15 years from now, we can do that. But anyway, no folders, guys, just fixed blades. They're easier. It's what I believe in. I just think fixed blades are, they're like hassle-free. They work better for me. It's what I enjoy, okay? So they're all made here. And I don't want this to sound like I'm bragging about myself, because I'm not. I literally hate myself. Like, I'm right there with you. I hate me too. My father made knives though. He worked at Chicago Cutlery. So it's always been kind of like a thing for me. I was very much taught about knives. So I guess I'm trying to say I'm not some like random person in New Hampshire that's like, I want to be a knife designer too and be famous. That's not the point. Like, it's kind of always been part of my upbringing. My father really only carried fixed blades as well. He had like one folder. The rest were fixed blades. He very much taught me about like utilitarian designs, usefulness, geometry, all of the things. If my father ever saw some of the fidgety things out there in the world now, he would be like, what is wrong with the world? My father would not be impressed. So a lot of my designs are very utilitarian, very simple, and fueled by usage. Fueled by performance in use. So I think I'll lower you guys down, and I'm just going to show you some of my favorite ones that are also some of like the top sellers, and I think it's because they're so universal. And we're just going to talk a little bit about the inspiration to them. And yeah, if you're not interested in this, I totally don't blame you. Oh my gosh. If I can get this tripod to, wow, it's actually stuck. I don't know if I can, there we go. I totally get if this is not of interest, but I thought it'd be kind of cool to just talk about some of these and have it on film as to what inspired them. So let's talk about the Northern Knife Works Dart first. This was my first true design let out into the wilderness. This is a very small, 6.5 inch long knife, really concealable, tiny, okay? This was, first and foremost, inspired by a number of little tiny like scalpel knives almost that I had seen on Instagram, including but not limited to the Stonehawker Spike, the Gentry Knives Upland Hunter, and the Edge Knife Works Huntsman. Those were just some of the inspirations for this. But what I noticed with those, what I noticed with those knives is that the availability was pretty limited. So in talking to Levi, I said, what if we made our own version, put some of our own aspects into it so we're not copying them, but we do have something that is essentially more available if people are looking for that. That way they don't have to wait like a year, 2 years, whatever. So the Dart was born. We do drops of these nearly every Friday. Of course, they're small batch because Levi is a custom maker and it's only him doing everything, including the heat treat. But the whole point is we're just trying to make a small, little tiny game processing EDC knife readily available for the public. And that's how the Dart was born. We drop them generally in K390, high hardness, 64, 65. Just a really cool little tiny blade. I have videos processing rabbit with this. I have videos trying to break it. It's just an awesome little blade. Definitely something that a lot of people enjoy. So there's the Dart. The next one is the Dagger, and this is a very recent design. This is clearly just a large version of the Dart. A lot of people wanted a big boy version, so we made the Dagger. There's really not much to say about it. It is literally just a big boy Dart. Thicker, longer, more comfortable for people with larger hands. So there wasn't really any inspiration behind that other than needing to make this bigger. Next up, we have the Northern Knife Works Mink. Now, this one is kind of cool because this was actually inspired by another YouTuber, but not a knife YouTuber. This was inspired by Joe, I think his name is, Joseph Carter, the Mink Man. He has a channel called The Mink Man, I think it is. And he hunts with dogs and mink. Basically, he goes to farms and houses that have rat infestations, and instead of poisoning the animals, he takes a more humane approach, and he has a bunch of dogs and mink that are trained to exterminate the vermin. And he has a YouTube channel with over 1 million subs, I think. Is it 1 million? No, maybe it's 100,000. I don't know. He has a lot of freaking subs. He's famous, okay? But the whole point is I love him. I think it's so cool that he's using dogs to do that. His dogs and his mink are very impressive. And the mink itself is a very feisty, rugged little animal that can do a lot of stuff. It's pretty impressive. So Levi and I made this kind of outdoor or EDC knife called the Mink, and it essentially is thick enough and strong enough to do batoning, outdoor tasks, all of that stuff, but thin enough to do EDC tasks as well. And I just thought the Mink would be a good name for it because it's kind of a do-it-all type deal here. So that's the Mink, and this is just one of my favorites. It's very comfortable, really slimline, not much to it. Just a very cool. I've tried to break this on camera as well. This is one that I tried to break the tip off of and I just couldn't, but very, very cool knife. This is a really exciting one. The next one is the Badger. I'm sure you can kind of see a theme here with the animal names. We also have one called the Otter, which is a camp knife, but that one is getting new clothes currently, so it is not in the lineup. But this is the Badger. The Badger was supposed to be kind of a fixed blade version of the Benchmade Bug Out. I love the Benchmade Bug Out. I just can't get behind the prices and the company characteristics anymore. So we made a lightweight kind of version of the Benchmade Bug Out in a fixed blade model. These come with a swedge now, and they're a little more pretty. This is kind of a prototype, but just a really, really cool little sturdy knife. Lightweight, just awesome drop point, great for skinning. really comfortable, also great for EDC tasks. Really, really enjoy the Badger. It's very universal in my opinion. Now the next three are from Dusty at Duckhead Forge, and these all kind of flow, so they're almost in a series. We have the Slater, the Ranger, and the Chum. The Slater is our small EDC knife. The Ranger is a mix between an outdoor knife and an EDC knife, and it's literally a hybrid of these two. And the Chum is a full-blown hunting and outdoors knife. So the Slater is about the same length as the Dart. 6.5 inches long, little tiny EDC knife. Thin slicey blade. These are done in K390, 64.5 HRC, 10 thou BTE. Just a really nice little EDC knife. You can totally process game with this as well, and you could even do camp tasks with it. I have videos of my other one in K390 trying to break it, wouldn't break. Batoning, everything. Like this little tiny thing, batoning through hardwood. I've got a lot of torture tests on it. But this is just meant to be a little EDC knife. Nice and small. Again, pretty simple. We have a little bit of a palm swell in there, but nothing too crazy. But the Slater is something I just absolutely love. And no, I did not name this after myself. I promise. That is my last name, but Dusty's the one that surprised me with the name. I don't ever pick the names, really. I let the maker. But that's the Slater. Just love this little guy. And then we did make the Chum next and then did the Ranger because people were asking for a midway point. But we'll just go over the Ranger next. So the Ranger is a literal hybrid of the Slater and the Chum. We've got, a little more blade length on this, a little more blade height. Still very ergonomically pleasing, not too long where you can't carry it as an EDC knife. I think this is 7.25 inches long, something like that. But fully capable of doing some outdoor stuff, some gutting, but also small enough to, again, EDC, and it's just a little more of a handful if you have larger hands, but you still want the concept of the Slater. The Ranger is very cool. Really, really love this knife. Just an awesome design. And it totally incorporates both models into one. And then the last one is the Chum. So this is my version of the Bark River North Country EDC. There were things about that knife that I admired very much so, and then there were some things that I didn't admire as much. So we used that as a base inspiration for this. And this is a little bit longer, definitely a little more of a slimline blade shape, a little more ergonomic. We added the cool little scallops here for a pinch grip. But this is totally capable of batoning, field dressing, camp cooking, all of the things. I have a lot of that filmed. This is just kind of like the perfect outdoor knife for me. So comfortable. It does have a Coke bottle handle, but not that like golf ball swell in the middle. I can't stand that. So this is a more subtle Coke bottle handle. Nothing really telling you where to put your hand or your fingers, just it all falls perfectly. Great blade length. I have processed game with this. It did phenomenal. I just really like this for an all-around outdoor knife. It's definitely a little too long and a little too big to EDC, but that's not really what it's meant for. So, the part that I wanted to get into about all these designs is that they're all very simplistic. My goal isn't to make some fidgety, cuckoo thing with all of these, like checkered designs and frag pattern and all of the things. That's not really my goal with my designs. when I was living, we will call it off-grid, which all of this is filmed, I promise. If this is the first you're hearing of it, everything I'm about to tell you is literally on the channel and filmed. I lived off-grid for a year in a shell of a camper that was gutted, okay? So I bought it. It had nothing in it. It was gutted. It was all just plywood. Go watch the videos. I renovated it to the best of my abilities on my own and lived in it for a year. The plot twist was that there were no utilities really. So for a year, I lived with only enough electricity to fuel like 2 lights and the mini fridge in the camper. Nothing else worked. So there was no plumbing. There was no water. I did not use a toilet for a year. I did not have a shower for a year. I could not wash laundry for a year. I did not have a running kitchen sink for a year. Which sounds crazy, I know, but I swear to God, I filmed the entire thing. So when you live in a situation like that for a year, it teaches you so much. I didn't have air conditioning in the summer, and in the winter, I was able to run a propane heater, sort of, that ended up crapping the bed, and it was very much like bundle up type thing, okay? And I lived in there with my 4 dogs. It's all on camera. Needless to say, that was the hardest year of my life. However, it taught me a ton, and it very much contributed to my knife designing now, because when I'm telling you, when you live without all of those necessities for a year and you're kind of like living off of a mix between the land and like resources and all of the things, and you use a knife that often, it teaches you so much. So like I had to travel to shower at a friend's house. I had to travel to do laundry. I had to travel to fill up 5-gallon jugs, to use a manual pump to wash my dishes every day. I couldn't do laundry. There was no toilet. And trust me, if there were a way to set up all these things, I would have. There was not a way. Like I said, this is going to raise so many questions, but just go back and watch the videos if you have any questions, because I can't, like, we're 30 minutes and I can't go over the whole year right now. But the whole point is I didn't have access to anything, otherwise I would have utilized it, right? So I was left with all of these things. You really have to use your resources when you're living off-grid and living in a shell of a camper, where you have to create warmth, create cooling systems in the summer, create water, create everything. And it very much inspires my knife designs to this day, because back then I used to test and review a lot of folders, and I really noticed the flaws in them in that particular situation. And it very much fueled my designing for my fixed blades today, because I'm trying to create tools that will work for kind of anyone, will stand the test of time, not difficult to maintain, and they just perform. So that is a huge, motivator behind a lot of my designs, because making the most beautiful knife is not my goal. Making the most expensive knife is not my goal. None of that is. It's creating tools that are with you day in and day out, and just do the dang task that you need them to do, right? To the best of their ability. So as difficult as that situation was, I was bitter about it for so long, but now I'm trying to view all of these challenges as a positive motivation for things. And I realized living off grid really did inspire my knife designs, especially because it was so many bad things happened. Like the roof caved in on Christmas Day one time, filmed that. We got kicked off of the first property and had to literally move to into the fucking boonies like in the middle of winter, down this like dirt road, down this really long dirt driveway, like into the woods, nowhere, where there was just nothing. And oh my gosh, I learned so much. There are videos from that time period of me processing like rabbits to feed my dogs on a tailgate. I'm serious. If you don't believe me, just go watch the videos. It was wild. Like having to use, this is gonna get so gross, but I'm just being serious. If you don't like TMI, turn the damn video off. Having to use like a chamber pot for a year because you don't have plumbing and you don't have a toilet, and coordinating all of that is messed up, okay? I learned so much about, I guess, survival. Like when you have to create heat in your camper because there's no heat and it's -15 in New Hampshire in the middle of winter and you've got 4 dogs that you have to keep warm and you're working 40 hours a week. Let me remind you, I worked this entire time. I worked my job this entire time. And I worked B shift. So I would go to work. No, I would have to schedule leaving the camper a couple hours early every day before work so I could go shower at a friend's house and do laundry and do all of the like human things before my shift, go to work from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m., drive an hour home from work to my camper. I get home around 11 o'clock at night, take care of the dogs, eat dinner because I worked B shift, get to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning after all the chores were done, dogs were taken care of, I was fed, go to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I'd have to wake up at 5 a.m. I'd only get like 4 or 5 hours of sleep. I'd wake up at like 5, 6 a.m. because I'd have to have all that time before work to like stay alive and to keep my dogs alive. So I'd have to get up super early, like make sure they were walked, process food for them, like pump water, like do all of these crazy camper things, you know, get ready, like even cooking was a hassle because you have to like light the propane stove with a lighter, and like even collecting propane, going a half hour away to buy propane, which you would blow through so quick. Just all of these things that people don't think about. You know what I'm saying? And like even washing my dishes, I had to like pump water out of a pump to clean them, and we drilled a hole through the camper to have the water pour out onto the ground underneath the camper. And then you have to maintain that because there's mice and all. Guys, when I was rescued from that situation, I cried the first time I was able to use running water in a house again. I cried. I sobbed. So all of that I count as a blessing because it taught me so much about survival. And it really impacted my knife designs today. So if you've made it this far, I guess the whole point of talking about that a little bit was that I understand that knife tubers designing knives, it can be really annoying. For some people, I don't know why people let it bother them that much, to be honest. Like, why does it matter? But if it does annoy you and it does bother you, I'm just saying sometimes maybe people have an unspoken story behind the designs where they're not just doing it for a money grab. By the way, I don't make any money off of my designs. That's the other thing. I don't think you can shill your own designs when you get nothing in return from them. Nothing. I have never accepted a single penny off of the income that the makers make off of my designs, and I refuse to at this time, okay? So I'm not like trying to shill my own designs here. I don't get anything from it, I promise. I get nothing. I don't get a single cut of the commission because I don't want to. I don't deserve it. So this isn't some like listen to my sob story shilling my own products. I promise. I'm trying to share with you guys that not everyone that designs knives, that's a knife tuber, is in it for a money grab and doing them in China. Some people just genuinely love knives and have experienced things that impact their designs, and all I can do is hope that you listen to my story and think, oh wow, like that makes so much sense. No wonder they kind of all look similar. No wonder they're all done for the most part in like super steel that has a long lasting edge. No wonder they have a lack of ergonomics, because that's what worked for me in that situation. You know, that's just how my life was. I didn't want something that was complicated. I want simple, easy tools that just work, right? They don't have to be beautiful. I just want them to work and to perform. So if you turn this off and you think I'm shilling my own products or whatever, go ahead. I'm never going to change your mind if you think like that. I don't get anything from this. I don't make anything off of my designs. I do it out of pure joy because I love knives. My father made knives. I don't have the capability of doing it right now. So all I can do is design and give you guys some really sweet designs that I love, that worked for me in some of the hardest times of my life, and that are inspired by performance and use and not driven by money or driven by fancy fidgety. Again, nothing against anyone that does that. I'm just saying this is what drives my designs. So if you've made it this far, I can only hope that you understand and appreciate the drive behind this work. It is to make my soul happy and to make consumers happy. And that's it. And to support custom makers, because that's my passion, is to support custom knife makers. So I hope that you guys enjoyed that. That's just a little bit of background. Like I said, if you have any questions about that whole thing, there's a year worth of videos that I filmed in that situation. Everything from buying the camper to renovating it myself, and then the whole year of living in it with my dogs and surviving without anything basically in New Hampshire for a full year, all the seasons. We made it out. It's all there. Okay? I greatly appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Go use your shit. Learn how to sharpen your knives. Check out Northern Knife Works and Duckhead Forge. I will link them down below. I really appreciate you guys. I love you so much. Take care.